Is this going to be a war that now goes on for the next many years? The new normal, essentially, like the Russia-Ukraine war has become, or as Trump says, it'll end in the next few weeks, or will it wrap up in a few days? Will we see some sort of talk, some sort of middle ground being reached? Sandeep, I'll begin with you. What do you think? The US president says 4 to 5 weeks. Do you think it'll go on for that long?
Well, the rhetoric emerging right now, Akshita, is that we're going to fight this war for as long as it takes. And my sense is that they got into this war thinking that it would be a very swift operation, it would be a decapitation strike, it would be a leadership change. None of that seems to have played to plan, because Ayatollah Khamenei died in the first 24 hours of that operation. It was decapitation strike. But the Iranians seem to have something else in their minds when they launched over 1,000 projectiles a day, and they've been relentlessly targeting the GCC countries, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, and of course they've expanded the arena of conflict from Cyprus to Oman, over 3,000 kilometers. Yeah. All this wasn't part of the original plan. They thought they would be able to confine the operations to Iran. They would bring so much of pressure on Iran, and Iran would hopefully fold up. That hasn't played to plan yet. Iran has, in fact, expanded the theater of operations, dragged in more countries, and it has now begun a very dangerous phase, which is targeting commercial interests, targeting oil supplies and the Straits of Hormuz.
So are you suggesting essentially that Iran won't be ready to have any sort of conversation right now, that they're going all out?
Iran is going all out because they have no other option. They're fighting with their backs
right
to the
now,
wall.
But Sandeep, that's right now. What about, let's say, a week from now? Will they still be in a position where they can go all out?
My sense is that the US and Israel is playing to try and exhaust Iran, get them to expend all of their missiles, their ballistic missiles, their drones, destroy their stockpiles, destroy their ability to launch missiles. Because right now, the only card that Iran has on its hands is the ability to inflict damage using their drones, using their ballistic missiles. Once that stops, Iran is helpless, it's defenseless. That's what this long game appears to be. The fact that they want to play this for the next 3-4 weeks in the hope that their air power will be able to overpower Iran's ability to launch all of these weapon systems. So it's essentially you're looking at a war of attrition in the short term, in the next couple of weeks. Who runs out of interceptors first? Will America and Israel run out of interceptor missiles first, or will the Iranians run out of ballistic missiles and cruise missiles and drones first?
Sumit, what do you think?
Well, I agree with a few of the points with this, Sandeep, but there are more possibilities that, yes, Americans and Israelis are not able to handle all these attacks which have been done by the Iranians. That is why we can say that they might extend these operations for the next 4 or 5 weeks. But are they able to handle all these attacks on their embassies, consulate for a longer period? The answer is definitely no. So we can say that yes, the only agenda of all these extended attacks is not only to exhaust their air power or their missile power or their drone power. This is also to get all those ground inputs from the Iran, just only to get where is the enriched uranium sites, where they have dispersed all these uranium which they are not able to track. So they are buying all these times for that particular reason also. And moreover, they are also getting the ground reports. Are they able to achieve what they have not able to achieve in last year in 2025? So these time is only tell them what exactly the next plan of action. Then only they can proceed further for all these ground reports.
No, so the suggestion is, Geeta, there's been a lot of questions about this, about whether there's actually been a strategy for US. There's been talk about whether Iran has been underestimated by US and Israel in the manner in which they've gone all out. But the suggestion from Sumit is that they've got this planned, that this is very much in the plan, that this will go on for a few days and then they'll wrap it up. So are you saying maybe 4-5 days and then Iran will come to the talking table?
Well, I think what Sumit was trying to say is not that they had planned it for the next few days, but just that they will not be able to sustain it beyond the next few days. What we're looking at is the ticker that is running on our channel. The Chinese foreign minister has spoken to the Iranian foreign minister. That's an important piece. Yeah. The Russians and the Chinese are an important piece. They might not join in militarily, but they have stakes. And the stakes are very, very high. So what happens now? That's going to be an important one and a very important piece, Akshita. Having said that, I agree with Sumit that there's a cost to pay. West Asia is burning. Does the Arab world have the stomach to endure a conflict? Iran has had that. Iran has been hardened. Iran knows how to live and survive with very little means. The Arab world has not had that. It's been known to be comfortable, prosperous, peaceful, a haven of sorts when it comes to... Not this. So right now, we are seeing the UK base, the American bases. We are also now looking at hits at, and precision strikes, by the way, at the American, no schools being hit over here, no civilian population. That is in Israel, of course, but that's part of Iranian strategy.
Yeah.
But here in West Asia, embassies, bases, and the cost of war. Can they sustain? So I don't think it's just about military hardware, whether the two sides have, and how long can they sustain. It's also about how long can they bear the cost, or economic cost of war.
Pranay, you wanted to make a point, because
Absolutely.
I also want to highlight the cost of war. We'll come back to that, but go ahead.
But Akshita, I would want to take forward from the point Geeta made, and I would like to read from the Chinese Foreign Ministry
Please,
statement,
yes.
which has
Yes,
just
please.
come.
Let's put out that news break as well.
And in fact, the Chinese Foreign Minister spoke to the Iranian Foreign Minister, and China says that China supports Iran in safeguarding its sovereignty, security, territorial integrity, and national dignity, and support Iran in upholding its legitimate and lawful rights and interests. This opens up another dimension altogether. This will this will change the timeline.
Let's just add to that, the last paragraph where Wang Yi has said that they've urged US and Israel to
Absolutely.
immediately stop the war.
This is on the similar lines, because
This is-
if you see the statement put out by the Sayyid Abbas Araghchi, Iranian foreign minister, that we are only defending our interest, and the onus lies for any truce, any ceasefire on America and Israel, because they initiated it. And as you spoke to Ben Cohen, he says, and if, since Sandeep mentioned about the lexicon, about the semantics, that they are saying that we will take it as long as it goes. Because Israel has been preparing and waiting for this moment for years. They want to finish the agenda, and the agenda
But
is...
that's the question also, Pranay. See, for Israel, this is something that
objective
they
is clear.
wanted.
Yes.
Has US fallen essentially for a narrative created by Israel then?
Many people think that it is Israel which draw, they have drawn United States into this conflict, and this is for the second time. During the 12-day war, United States announced that we have bombed these nuclear facilities, and this should be the end point, and let us go back to the business as usual, or rather, let's explore the diplomatic rules. But now, Israel again initiated it, and they have drawn United States into it, and they would want to finish, and they are not going to talk to, if you go by their statement, they are not going to deal with the same regime, because in any case, in any negotiation, say about like 2 weeks or another, if they have to deal with same Sayyid Abbas Araghchi or Masood Pezeshkian, then they will be protecting their interest about their missile facilities, their nuclear facility, enrichment facilities, and they do not want to go down the same road again.
But also, the other argument over here, Akshita, is this, and very quickly, maybe Sandeep would want to weigh in. If this regime goes, then it creates an argument that any country that they think is an existential threat, China, Russia, you're talking about dictatorships and
they
ones
can't
that
afford to hit them.
I'm just saying, that's the argument,
They can't afford
right?
to hit those heads of state.
But
Well,
that's
it's
the
about having a
argument.
nuclear might. These
But
countries
that's-
you can't touch.
Who's
But
deciding
that's the
That's
argument.
the law of the jungle now.
exactly.
That's what...
I agree, nothing
our
sacred
civilization-
anymore.
Nothing
Right? This is
sacred.
the new normal.
The rules-based order that
So
we
Russia
know
and China would say the same thing.
post-1945 is over. And we have to thank the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney for saying that today in 2026, if you're not at the dining table, you're on the menu. Right?
Yes.
And that any state
And they are
can get
looking at
eaten up
that.
like
Russia and
This is
China are
the reality,
looking at
Raj.
that.
This is a jungle
This is
law. This is the law of the
existential
jungle.
threat to the bloc itself.
And Geeta, unfortunately, this is the era of war. This has turned into an era of war.
That was a question I was asking earlier, whether the new normal is war now.
Yes.
You see conflicts, so multiple of them, some of them raging on for years. It's almost as
And
if
we should
this
also
is how,
call out the
this is acceptable
ineffectiveness.
now.
We should also call out the ineffectiveness of the world bodies. Where is UN? And so ineffective US has turned out into.
No, but come on, United Nations Security Council meeting was held, and the First Lady led the conversations there.
That's telling by itself about how much really these world bodies can do. There was a point Geeta made on cost of war. I just want to focus on that. Sandeep, if you'll come with me, we'll just put out the numbers on our screens right now of what exactly is the cost of war here. For US, it's about $779 million. This is for the initial 24-hour strikes alone. So overall, if you look at it, Sandeep, total cost of the entire Operation Epic Fury alone is $210 billion. Now, this is an estimate. This is so far.
Yes.
Right? As far as Israel is concerned, it's about $2.5 billion, and that's spent on the war till day 3, till yesterday.
Yes.
This is an expensive war for both sides as well.
It
you
is.
can talk about Iran running out, but for US, domestic pressures, can they afford to keep this up?
Well, just to go back into history very quickly, Akshita, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan cost the US $5 trillion. It cost them $5 trillion, $8 trillion if you add the cost of looking after veterans and all of that. So the US has been here before. This is like Groundhog Day. You're repeating the mistakes of the past. You're going into a war which you thought would be a quick win, but now you're slowly you're experiencing mission creep, and the costs are going to pile up. Donald Trump is not going to be able to turn to the American people and say, I saved you so much money, I got you so many $1 billion in tariffs. How much did you spend in the war, and was it worth it? That destruction that's been inflicted across West Asia, that's going to take a lot of billions of dollars to repair.
And so, Sumit, is that something that's also being considered right now? If you can join me here, what exactly are we looking at as far as the costs are concerned for Iran? There's not much clarity at this point on exactly how much of a cost Iran is incurring. Yes, please. What exactly do you think is the impact of this war on Iran financially?
Well, Iran from very long period have been facing these sanctions. So they are already facing all these sanctions, but exactly all these equipment, all these drones or all these ballistic missiles have been indigenously developed by the Iranian side. So there will be a more impact on Iran because they have already facing all these sanctions. They have been facing a protest all across the country, but most important point is, are they able to stop all these processes? No, they are not going to stop all these processes because this is the only safeguard which they have in this region, and they will continue to manufacture and make all these weapons. But the main challenge for Israel and America is, are they only able to control or damage these equipment, but they are not able to control. They are not able to capture, because for that particular reason, they need to send their man on ground. And that can only possible if America and Israel going to go for a longer operation in Iran.
Is that possible, Pranay? Boots on ground? Trump didn't rule it out, by the way. He didn't rule it out.
Boots on ground will open up another dimension, Akshita. Boots on the ground has its own long-term commitments. It has its own cost. And if you see, it is like a very difficult situation for President Donald Trump, because he's already started losing support among the MAGA, with whom he has campaigned and garnered their support by saying that I am the only US president which did not start a new war. I am the peacemaker, I am the deal maker, and I am against for the US soldier losing their life in another territory and safeguarding others' interests.
6 have fallen so far.
So 6 have fallen so far, and now if he keeps shifting the goalposts, even at this crucial point of time where he's heading towards a crucial midterm election, this has its own political cost, and Donald Trump, if he cares about anything, it is about his own image and the political costs. So it has its own, challenges if US at all commits boots on ground, and if that happens, that can only happen in certain circumstances where they are fully sure that the region is safe for their soldiers to go in and carry out some limited task, or maybe, like as Sumit was mentioning, the extraction of the fissile material or the enriched uranium.
Okay.
But to stabilize Iran, to control Iran, I don't see a possibility for the United States to commit its troops.
Trump, in his last address, said, many is suggesting I'm getting bored of this war. He says, no, I'm not getting bored. I will never get bored, so I'll continue this conflict. But there is a conversation, Geeta, about the domestic compulsions also that perhaps could have led Trump to taking this particular decision.
Well, to go to war, I don't think domestically it would have been very popular. Because Americans do not like going to war.
The whole talk of a distraction tactic because of pressure on him domestically.
That's him himself. Yeah. He is distracting. Domestically, they would not have wanted a war. But the domestic situation is so bad that to distract his own people from the inflation that they're facing, the price rise, and Epstein files. A lot of the things that were happening on the domestic front were not in favor of Trump. So the argument many experts believe is that this is a distractionary tactic by the Trump administration, by President Trump himself. but the cost is very high. So there has to be something more than just say calling it a distraction. That would be just simplifying it. There has to be more than this. The conversations that took place in Mar-a-Lago between Netanyahu and Trump are important. I wish I were a fly on the wall. I was not. So we do not know really what happened, but
whatever he said convinced Trump.
There was a lot of convincing, right? Because he actually said a few things that that were debunked by the foreign minister. He said that they are preparing missiles to hit America. That's beyond 2,000-kilometer range. Arakchi said we don't have any missile that is beyond. We have capped it at 2,000 kilometers precisely for this reason, because we do not want America to think that we can reach them. But should they attack us, we will reach them by reaching the US bases. So 2,000-kilometer cap means they've covered the whole of West Asia. That's good enough for them, right?